You're listening to Paris Talks Marketing. My goal with this podcast is to dig deeper into digital marketing success than any other marketing podcast out there, to reveal the growth marketing strategies and tactics that are working today, empowering growth at amazing companies and organizations. Keep listening as I interview founders, CEOs, and marketing leaders from all around the world, primarily from companies in the tech and software as a service industries. Now, on with the episode. Hi, everyone. Today I'm with Christopher Schreiber, who is the head of marketing at Qwilr. And he has had a long and very rich career in B2B product marketing. And I'd like him to give us a little bit of his background. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Yeah, excited to be here and to chat with you.
You want to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, definitely. Head of marketing at Qwilr, and my career has largely been in the technology space. I started at Google, working out of Silicon Valley office in Mountain View for about 4 years, and worked on more on the consumer side. Kind of was involved in the launch of a number of their large consumer apps. After that, I've really been working with growth stage technology companies. So led marketing for companies in the advertising technology space, in the CMS space, and now at Qwilr.
Mm-hmm. And what have you learned and what similarities do you see through those experiences at companies like, I can see Launch Squad and Share Through and Brandcast. Now that you've been in so much product growth companies, what type of trends or patterns have you seen throughout your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's always sort of attracted me and where I've seen like the biggest successes is really around sort of category creation. Products that don't just try to sort of come into existing markets and offer slight sort of improvements or incremental gains, but really try to flip the paradigm. And for me, it's always been in the B2B space, but it's really been trying to sort of break down walls, and whether that's in taking out sort of big roadblocks or challenges that were there, or just kind of like creating much more sort of meaningful results or efficiencies. And so, what I've found is that like it's not easy to create new categories, but to the victor goes the spoils. And it's a mix of meeting people where they are, speaking about problems that are verified and hard to solve, and then sort of taking that problem statement and leading them to a new sort of product category. And that sort of combination I found can work across a lot of different types of products.
Mm-hmm. My understanding of new category creation, as you put it, to the victor goes the spoils. So you have the uphill battle of trying to show people something that they didn't really know was already there and convince them that they need it. But then if you're successful in doing that, the likelihood of you taking a number one position in that new category is very, very high. Mm-hmm. Is that basically the way that you think about it?
That's right. I mean, I think is, as you start to create a new conversation and you get people excited and you create space for others to participate in that conversation, you can drive a lot of opportunity for yourself that can be, can kind of snowball versus trying to compete mm-hmm. on highly competitive, terms for a very established category, which is also a strategy as well. But I think, for me, my experience has really been more in trying to transform, trying to create new categories. And we were doing that even at Google. We were really transforming a number of categories that I was working on.
Yeah. And how are you doing that now at Qwilr?
Well, at Qwilr, I think it's sort of a similar playbook in terms of meeting people where they are. And for us, it's about, just higher performing, more efficient kind of sales proposals. But then as they kind of step into our world, realizing the broader value that we can give and what we are talking about as a smart document system mm-hmm. for business teams. And so we are very much discovering or being discovered through a lot of companies typically like looking for a better solution for proposals or potentially even for e-sign. And then as they come in, we start to educate them about all these sort of interconnected use cases that you can do with Qwilr, because Qwilr is a very flexible tool. And so you can essentially apply the content creation capabilities to create a sales proposal, but you can also do things kind of upper funnel in terms of marketing content and lead gen content, or lower funnel, or even post sale, like customer content. And it starts to become a very sort of flexible, like system of record for content that's also hooked in to all your data and systems. And so it's sort of a different way of operating, but what companies find is, oh wow, I'm starting to like really collapse kind of 3 or 4 products into one with you.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of efficiencies that come there.
At a minimum, it seems to me that you're collapsing e-signature tools and proposal software. Are there any other categories that you're gobbling up?
Yeah. So like I was just talking to, and that's right, very much. I mean, even collapsing proposals and e-signature is a meaningful advance, since those are right now usually two different products that you're investing in to do that. But I was talking to a customer the other day, and he was saying, when we started the search, I was looking for a new solution for contract management. So that was primarily more around kind of e-signature tools that were going to integrate with CRM. And I was also doing a search for content management systems for our business team, so we could figure out a better way to create sales enablement content, marketing content. And then we found you, and we realized, oh, wow, this is actually all of this. This is e-signature, this is content creation and management, and it's also insights and analytics. And so those are sort of all categories that we have found sort of converging in our platform. I think for us, like we sort of think of it as 3 sort of pillars, which is like design, transaction, automation. And today, those are usually like all 3 sort of different products that you're investing in to do these things.
Yeah, interesting. The analytics side is very interesting too, because that in a way starts to encroach on the sales enablement category a little bit.
Exactly. I think that's right. But I think at the same time, people want fewer logins. They want tools that can do a lot.
Absolutely.
They'll go to the one that has, sort of the best combination of easy use plus results. But the fewer the logins, the better. And so we see that as a strength for us.
I think in general, I'll tell you a quick side story here. I was listening to a podcast from the CEO of ClickUp, and it was right after they had that big raise a few months back. Yeah. And he described this as SaaS 3.0. So SaaS 1.0 was really the when most of these apps were not yet in the cloud. In fact, so it wasn't really SaaS at that point, but they were bundled. Like Microsoft Office was a bundle, and the Adobe suite was a bundle. And then SaaS 2.0 came along, and actually maybe SaaS 1.0 was really moving those bundles into the cloud, let's say, but still bundles. And then SaaS 2.0 was an unbundling and a fragmentation. And I think that's where we're right at the end of right now, because at some point people realized as the SaaS landscape got more and more fragmented, and there just became tools that were so highly specialized in doing very, very specific things, like take, for example, just e-signature, but only e-signature, or just time tracking, but not with project management or anything else. And this was very useful. And I think those companies, got some good valuations, and either had successfully sold or got integrated into other tools. But the users got to the point where, wow, my SaaS stack is now something like 25 tools. I mean, I'm asking my team, as you said, to log into maybe a dozen different SaaS tools every day and try to keep the work going across this very complex stack. And so SaaS 3.0, which is how Zeb from ClickUp described it, is a rebundling in the cloud. So the bundling that took place in the 90s with Microsoft Suite, Adobe, is now happening in the cloud by taking this fragmented landscaping and bringing it back together. So apps like ClickUp, for example, which we use now, is combining project management with time tracking, and we use it for now our applicant tracking system. Our OKRs are about to move in there, and we're even looking at it as a CRM. in the near future. So it's basically has already replaced 3 or 4 tools and probably will replace 2 more in the near future. And I think I see that happening also in your space too, because I don't know how much longer an e-signature tool can stand alone by itself. And I think also there's a lot of tools for creating rich content, but then getting client buy-in on that in a documented way with analytics and a signature. To me, that's a nice example of a rebundling. Did I describe that fairly, or do you see it in a different way?
I hadn't heard it put maybe like as kind of concisely as that, like the sort of SaaS 3.0 rebundling. I forget exactly the term you use, but I think that's totally right on. I do think like you saw all these advancements in that sort of SaaS 2.0 space of companies that offered all of these efficiencies, but on a very specific category. And it was so much better than what you were doing before, that you saw all these, individual product categories sort of pop up. And a lot of it was just basically like taking something that wasn't in the cloud and moving it into the cloud, and all the good stuff that happened there. And so now when such a high percentage of the tools are in the cloud, now you can sort of reintegrate a lot of them and then create sort of new value then from the fusion of things. And they also become like more multi-layered tools. And I think that's totally right on when I see sort of the companies that that seem like they're really, changing work and growing fast, like Notion or like Slack, or, and certainly ourselves. Like it's not as it's hard on the marketing side, because you're like, well, how do I explain this in one sentence when there's so many layers to what we can do?
The lines are a little blurry between these categories now.
Yep. And that's, I think, for me, a lot of what the category creation work has been kind of throughout my career is not necessarily introducing like an entirely new thing that was never possible before, versus a new convergence of products and efficiency that wasn't possible before, and finding some language to give you just sort of a vocabulary to talk about it.
Right. I talk to my team here a lot. We have several clients that are in similar cases, and we're still trying to use the classic channels like paid search to achieve customer acquisition growth. And we have this concept called adjacent intent, which means that we're not going to find the perfect keyword, because we're pivoting a category here. So we need to find the adjacent keywords. We need to find keywords that are similar, like the first cousins or so of our specific target keyword. But because our target keyword, our perfect keyword, has such little volume, we've got to search around for adjacent intent. And then once we find that adjacent intent, so let's say for you, adjacent intent might be e-signature tools, because you do that plus other stuff. And of course, you're going to have to compete with maybe the more pure players in that space. But then there needs to be, in terms of communication and messaging, there needs to be some sort of a bridge from, as you said, meet them where they are, but then build a bridge to where you want to take them. And that is the essential element there, is how do you communicate at that moment, hey, I know you're looking for an e-signature tool. We can give you a very good one, but plus all this other stuff that can make your life simpler. So you don't have to send a PowerPoint presentation, then later follow up with a HelloSign document. But you could just do that in one experience, and just imagine your workflow becoming simplified in that way, where you're not sending 2 things, but you're just sending one thing. So that's how we think about this, is identifying the adjacent intent, and of course the keywords that come with it, and then thinking about how to build a communication bridge over from that side to our side. Have you found yourself doing something like that when it comes to just even digging into things like the keywords that you want to target for Qwilr?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think, a lot of times companies have sort of the opposite problem view, where it's like the main keywords are really high trafficked and really competitive. And so companies look for adjacent keywords just because they're not as competitive to place on, even though the traffic can be lower. it can sometimes also be a little bit more qualified. So, we're probably, we're probably a little bit in that camp where some of the macro keywords for us, whether it's, proposal software or like e-signature, like high traffic, but highly competitive. And so we look for adjacent keywords that, maybe combine those products with target industries or with kind of a more specific search that they're looking for that can be more kind of action oriented, such as like looking for specific types of templates. We have a very large template gallery, and that's been a very like effective strategy for us in terms of coming in through SEO and SEM. And I think, that sort of that bridge from meeting people where you are and what they're searching for into, introducing maybe a larger solution. I think that's part of where companies tend to cross over from like a product-led solution to a sales-led solution. So like product-led, I think you need to stay very focused. And if you're trying to drop someone into a free trial based on a search term, you want to have a very sort of continuous experience there, and not sort of confuse them with other solutions that they haven't sort of shown intent for, versus more sales-led opportunities where you might have gotten someone in through the free trial, through demo requests, through targeted keywords, but then really training your sort of sales team to figure out what that problem is that they're solving and be able to speak very efficiently to, okay, we can solve this problem, but we can actually drive even more value, and helping train the team on bringing up relevant case studies, bringing up sort of ROI metrics, so the buyer can sort of hear stories that sound like them and say, okay, so that company was also looking for an e-signature solution and then came to you for or ended up working with you on all these other things. Okay, that's interesting, because I think people want to hear. They don't. Very few want to be the first, particularly when they're spending their company's money, and being able to communicate stories that have clear results, that have sort of a narrative and story arc that allow people to see themselves within it is an important piece of that sort of bridge to the new category conversation.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually on the website now, and I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into how you all are balancing product-led growth versus sales-led, because I do notice you've got both calls to action going on. First question I have for you is just generally, what is the ratio of conversions between people that opt for basically the free hands-on product-led growth experience versus book a demo call?
So essentially, like what conversions are you trying to dig into? You're looking at basically like kind of new customer conversion for a demo request flow versus a free trial flow.
Yeah, just proportionally, how many of your leads opt for a sales demo versus just the free trial?
I see.
Or the freemium?
I mean, it's definitely a majority that are coming in through the free trial.
Okay.
And we have sort of a third lane, which is anyone that's coming through the free trial. We collect a lot of information about them through that process.
Yeah.
And then that is essentially processed through a series of filters that sort of tell our team, like, hey, this is a new lead in the free trial flow. This may be worth like a proactive conversation. And so we'll have sort of like a sales assisted flow there, where they're in the free trial, but there's opportunities throughout that free trial sign up, depending on like the information that you've provided to us, that can sort of naturally like lead to conversations with our team.
Gotcha.
And also, just like signals for our team to potentially reach out and talk.
So I just did it, and I'm now looking at my test proposal, which is beautiful, by the way. Because I self-identified as an agency with 50 employees, am I about to get a phone call? I gave the phone number too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little more like sophisticated in that. Like that would certainly like meet the minimum threshold for potentially getting outreach. But then there's a lot of information that's being collected about
Mhm.
you that would sort of give the team like more information about whether to reach out or not.
Gotcha. And is there any actual in product signals, usage signals? Like if I really started customizing this sandbox that I'm in right now, do you use any of that kind of data to determine that this is now a high value prospect that needs an immediate email or some special approach?
Hmm. I mean, so we have sort of an evolving activation metric, which essentially signals to us like higher propensity to become like basically like a high value customer to us.
Mm-hmm.
Those metrics are important in terms of tracking like forecasting what we think we're going to be able to deliver revenue wise from what's currently in our funnel, but they're not really used for like signals for outreach. Like that essentially happens
Mm-hmm.
before you've even started using the product. We've collected like the information to decide like, are we going to do a proactive
I
outreach?
see.
But
Yeah.
I'd say, you know, that the opposite is true in terms of like if we've seen um, you know, if your kind of profile gives us a number of signals that this could be like a really good fit customer for us, and we've seen sort of less product engagement, that would almost be more of a driver for outreach than like than higher value product engagement.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that's really interesting. How many salespeople do you have currently at Qwilr?
Yeah, that number is growing. I'm not sure exactly what the specific number is right now, but we've got sales offices in APAC region, in North America, and in Europe. Um, and you know what we found. I mean, the company was founded in Sydney and has sort of the most mature sales office there, but essentially across the board, like markets are growing, and yeah, so we're growing both on like the more kind of senior account executive side, and then also building out BDR team.
Mm-hmm. And what I can see is one of your ideal customer profiles is probably someone like me, an agency leader. And I think over the last few years, the digital agencies have grown tremendously. How important is that? How important is that sector or that persona for you all?
You know, it's definitely like high value for us on multiple levels. I think just as like they're good customers, they tend to like be power users of the product, tend to create really like attractive looking content, which are all sort of great like case studies and what's possible with the product. But then there's also a lot of partnership opportunities that we're starting to open up with agencies. So particularly agencies that kind of like specialize in Salesforce or HubSpot implementations and have customers that work with them there. Those are great partnerships for us because we've got integrations on top of both. And you know, those it creates sort of new business lines for these agencies. Okay, now I can start to set up more like sales enablement, you know, workflows for my clients and open up new opportunities for the agency. And then you know, also just for us as we get sort of more and more businesses trying to do content types that we haven't even sort of tried before, it's an opportunity for us to give kind of referral business out to agencies. So yeah, we really like that channel.
Great. Um, let's talk about now your own digital marketing. And I've taken a look at some statistics, at least according to Ahrefs. Organic traffic has been pretty strong, although it seemed like as of about November of last year, there was some uh, probably resulting in a Google algorithm update. But you all took a pretty big hit and have been on a slightly downward trajectory on organic traffic since then. What are you doing to try to maintain or to grow organic traffic to the site?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, you know, we're kind of thinking through that. I think like the space has definitely become like more and more competitive um, in this category, and so kind of looking for opportunities I think, yeah, to use your language, are somewhat adjacent to some of those core use cases, but also, thinking about new content formats that we can put out that speak directly to those core use cases with proposal software, e-sign. And so for us, it's trying to think of what are new opportunities to create really high quality content that can educate. And so leveraging all the sort of great customer stories that we have to create sort of more rich customer centric case studies and content that can be optimized, as well as investing more in research to deliver just more insights that might be able to kind of get more backlinks and kind of interest in the industry.
Backlinks. Yeah, I was thinking about backlinks just now. Is there any strategy where you can have a natural scalable backlinks coming from your templates that people use for free?
It's funny because like my last company and this company that's been this sort of open-ended question. It's more of like a theoretical strategy so far than I've seen like someone really be able to pull it off. But it certainly seems like something that should work. But I haven't seen it like actually executed to date.
Hmm. But are the templates themselves able to be used for free with branding, or you really need to be a customer of the product, right?
We don't have a full-fledged free product right now.
Hmm.
There has been free versions in the past, and very well maybe in the future. Right now, it's essentially a free trial.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. How long is the free trial?
I think currently it's 30 days.
Okay. Yeah. Great. And I'm just also taking a look through the blog, and I'm curious as well. Um, Actually, let me see. Just in terms of your overall content marketing strategy, it looks like at least every week you're publishing a new blog post.
Mm-hmm.
Is that according to a particular calendar, an editorial calendar, or how do you all approach content marketing and content strategy?
Yeah, it's been kind of roughly 1 to 2 posts per week for a number of months now, and all sort of very focused in just kind of the sales strategy space. So that can be around sort of sales technology, that can be around sort of more the human side of sales, and particularly kind of speaking to the very current issues of kind of remote work and selling remotely. And and so yeah, I think going forward we're going to stick with that, but start to layer in kind of more varied content formats. So starting to create more guides, more sort of deeper content that is going to come from like a number of investments that we're making on the research side.
Hmm. Yeah. I also noticed this really cool tool called the document generator.
Mm-hmm.
Is this how has this been for lead gen? There's a pack that I can get my hands on.
Yeah, so that predated me. That was a few years ago. Essentially, like a sub product that they released through Product Hunt. Um,
Okay.
but I think it was a really successful launch, and it was sort of this, as you say, like a pack of documents
Hmm.
that you could get through this. And we're looking at sort of ways to refresh that, because it has had very good like lasting power from an SEO standpoint.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think that is still very sort of like core to the vision of where we're trying to go, which is sort of a smart document system, a way to sort of create high performing, wired up documents across your customer journey. And so, yeah, I really like what they did there in terms of releasing that sort of vision. This was like a fully kind of automated flow that they tried to put together with templates for every single type of document that could drop you into the app and sort of just give you like an out of the box like business kit. And
Hmm.
I think it was more geared towards companies that were really just getting going, and were kind of like smaller profile, versus now we think we can do something like this even for for a larger company that's looking to essentially whole scale move their PDF kind of universe of PDF documents online.
Mm-hmm. How often do you see customers bringing in a large library of, PowerPoint presentations, PDFs, versus just starting clean from scratch?
It's very frequently, something exists today. I mean, you basically would have to be a fresh new company
Mm-hmm.
to not have any of this collateral. So
Yeah.
I'd say like the vast majority, like there's existing documents, and they can either be in the PowerPoint PDF sort of downloadable universe, or even in
Mm-hmm.
like the Google Slides kind of universe. And this is the opportunity that they're usually going to start with kind of a specific content format with us, whether it's going to be sort of the proposal or sort of contract management, something that tends to be like very kind of like lower funnel sales oriented, to make sure it actually work and that they can replace kind of their previous workflow with this. And then they start to expand out to other content formats, particularly when there's marketing teams involved.
Mm-hmm.
That tends to really accelerate the process, where they realize like, okay, this works for this core use case, whether it's proposals or something like that. Now we've built some assets through this one document that, wow, these could be very easily repurposed, and sort of
Yeah.
they're off to the races.
Yeah. So really, you get your foot in the door with the first set of users, and then they can introduce it to other teams or departments in the company as they start to see the flexibility of it, I suppose.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. I just couldn't resist. I'm digging into the top SEO pages now, and almost all of them are templates.
Mm-hmm.
So the vast majority, if we exclude the homepage, vast majority of your organic SEO traffic is coming into these templates. So it seems like how many templates are out there today, roughly?
That's a good question. It's a really large template gallery. I actually don't know the number off the top of
Mm-hmm.
my head. There's certainly like a subset that's driving the majority of the SEO traffic, and then from that, there's a subset of those templates that we see that really
Gotcha.
convert
Yeah.
at a higher level.
Mm-hmm.
And there tend to be sort of industry centric the templates that perform the best. And
Mm-hmm.
so, just kind of natural maturation of the business, we're starting to think through like, all right, content strategies that can really speak to kind of industries on a more specific level beyond just the template. But the template was kind of the signal to
Yeah.
us, like, hey, this is a good industry for us to focus on. What are other ways that we could speak to this industry directly?
Yeah. I imagine a pillar cluster content model where the template itself acts like a pillar page, and connected to that pillar page are a bunch of cluster pages, which are essentially blog posts
Mm-hmm.
that explain how you could be successful. So if I'm looking at an AdWords proposal template, um, and I imagine there could be a whole lot of content written about how to improve your, if you're a PPC agency, how you can improve your proposal process, how you can improve your sales process, or how you can just build better proposals, which is not something, the content that would exist in that template, but it would be supportive editorial content. You can kind of build around like a cluster around the pillar of the template. One thing that I definitely see missing, though, is the interlinking of the templates, which would give you an immediate SEO boost, just to help the link juice flow horizontally across the templates.
Mm-hmm.
But you might think about that as a not really for like in terms of just content ideas, but as a whole framework or a strategy, which is the so-called pillar cluster
Yeah, no,
model.
that's a really good idea. I hadn't actually quite sort of thought about it that clearly. We've kind of been thinking about it in the inverse of sort of pillar pages that speak to these industries as other vehicles to drive to these templates. But you're right, the
Mm-hmm.
going where the traffic exists makes a lot of sense, and then sort of adding in more educational and insightful content within that hub just makes it even more useful.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hubs are naturally there already, just by virtue of the fact that almost all the organic traffic is coming to templates
Mm-hmm.
right now. So you've already established that, in a way, you've already established that authority with Google. So then you just you try to just leverage off of that with editorial content that's connected to it. The linking architecture is important too, because the related cluster pages should all link into the template. And I don't know if that's happening. And the template should link out to many of the blog posts as well, along with linking to each other. So the most similar template maybe for a AdWords proposal might be, I don't know, maybe just a more generic digital marketing proposal, but similar, even just having like similar templates to the one you're looking at can be an easy way to do the cross linking. Yeah, this is fascinating as I dig more into the data. How's things going on the paid side? I mean, are you all seeing success with channels like Google Ads and Facebook Ads and anything else?
Yeah, I mean, those are probably the two biggest drivers right now. Is doing bottom of funnel kind of keyword focused ad buying on AdWords and as well as some of like the like software review sites that have very sort of similar types of ad buying strategies to AdWords. And then, I mean, Facebook actually has performed kind of consistently well for us, even though, you can certainly have like a spirited debate of like, is there really intent there on Facebook to be looking for solutions like this? The reality is like we are reaching the audiences and driving, qualified leads at a lower cost per than a lot of other channels we've experimented with. So Facebook has remained a part of the mix.
Yeah, especially for remarketing. I mean, maybe you could argue that the intent might not be there on the first touch, but if you bring remarketing audiences into Facebook, it's usually the cheapest remarketing click that you can get. If you know you're getting in front of the right people who have already been on the website. Have you tested anything on LinkedIn ads?
So I certainly have in other roles I've had, and we've been talking a lot about like about starting that up. We haven't. I don't think the company has been too active there, but I think like LinkedIn I find to be a very sort of like content centric environment, and for us, like we're just starting to like build that sort of like richer kind of B2B classic content library that would make more obvious kind of like marketing campaigns for LinkedIn. So I think that's coming up in the next kind of quarter or two, starting to, once the assets are in place, starting to test that out more.
Yeah, great. And I see in the use cases section here that something really stands out to me, which is what I wasn't expecting is there are 3 use cases or 3 personas that are called out here: B2B sales, which I'd expect, agencies, yes, and then recruitment, which seems to take the product in a different direction because it's no longer a proposal. But what is this something like a candidate hire page that is a different type of a use case for recruiters?
So I will agree with you right away that I did not see that coming when I was interviewing and thinking about it. And this is one of those ones where you just take like a clear-eyed look at your customer base and look at who's got sort of lowest churn, like happiest NPS scores, and start to interview them. And so we found that a number of like HR and recruiting firms use us for essentially like higher end recruitment documents. So that could be like the profile for the candidate that they're trying to place, or for like very kind of customized essentially job description pages. It can be sort of a mix of things. And a number of them have kind of have found a lot of success with Qwilr. And so that's one of kind of like multiple not so obvious use cases that we're going to start to just like promote more with the platform, because it is just a very kind of flexible content creation tool. And so as the awareness grows, and particularly as we start to like succeed within the sales department and expand within the company, we're going to start to add just more use cases and more examples of things you can create. And to your kind of earlier analogy with ClickUp, we think there's there's quite a bit of value you can create with Qwilr across multiple departments, because there's just like a similar goal of, hey, we want to create hot, good looking content quickly that is powered by a system that allows us to reuse assets efficiently. And that's true across a lot of different departments, a lot of different use cases within the marketing and sales departments.
Something is still slightly bothering me about this recruitment, though, and I think what it is, it's the brand. Because could you have a single brand that represents both number one in category proposal software, but at the same time a recruitment? I mean, should there be some sort of a sub-branding approach, or maybe even a rebranding of the recruitment tool, rather than have everything under the single brand Qwilr? Or maybe, I don't know, how do you all think about that? Has that ever been discussed?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think for sure, as it is, it stands out a little bit of like, hey, this doesn't kind of connect with the majority of like the story that we're telling on the website today. It feels a little far afield. So
it feels, a little disjointed maybe.
And I think, that though, I think will fall more in line as we start to roll out this positioning of this kind of smart document system versus kind of a more direct kind of just proposal software positioning. And because right now, it feels all very, very sort of just lower funnel sales content focused. And, we think the play here is a much sort of broader set of use cases. And so I think as we evolve the positioning, which, exists kind of more on the internal side right now than does the external, then seeing, recruitment use cases and some other use cases that don't fall directly in that lower funnel sales content will make more sense. But I think you're right that like, you do got to make decisions in terms of, well, how holistic a solution are we offering? If you're going to offer a solution to recruitment, there's a lot of other things that those companies are going to care about that like other industries or functions really will not care about. And so there's trade-offs and decisions that your product team needs to make then that sort of dictate how hard you go from the marketing side.
You could cut it. I mean, you could cut it across the other dimension and do something like Qwilr for agencies, which is a complete solution of proposals for clients and a recruitment solution of like, basically as an agency. I mean, the two major things that I think about is my next client and my next hire. And if I had a solution that could both bring me my next client and bring me my next great employee, that would be pretty cool. I mean, and then it would be a rebranding across your more in alignment with your ICP or your primary persona being, let's say, an agency, where I would, and I have some other different recruitment tools, but if I could use Qwilr both for my recruitment needs, and I could make myself really stand out among any other hiring agencies, and at the same time stand out among any agencies that would be that I'm competing with for clients. That could be interesting too. And then maybe another B2B sales solution that could be. I mean, B2B sales is so much broader though than just agencies.
Yeah.
So those three things are all quite different. I mean, B2B sales is it's more like an entire sector, where agencies, I would say, would be more like maybe an industry, and then recruitment is more like a job function that exists within almost every company. So maybe it's just thinking about how to rebrand across which primary dimension, by job function, by a certain industry, or by an actual sector.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think it almost feels like you're sitting within our internal marketing meetings. I mean, I think, what I like is like that the personas that you're calling out that are highlighted on the website, like those are not theoretical. Those are like data-driven processes that turned up like, hey, we've got really happy customers in these verticals. Like, let's start the process of starting to speak to them more directly and deliver, more customers that look like them. So it's all real, even though it's all kind of somewhat different from each other. And the challenge and the opportunity from the marketing side is like, hey, this is a very flexible tool. It works well for very different use cases. Now, how do we come up with sort of macro positioning that makes that allows us to operate within these different functions and have a coherent positioning, but then also like, let's start to go a lot deeper on the personas that we're speaking to here. So we feel like we have a much more complete solution for them. And kind of both are very much in process right now.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, Chris, this has been fantastic. Really fascinating discussion. I think we covered a lot of ground. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think could benefit our audience?
No, yeah, I agree. I thought this was a really good discussion. I definitely appreciate the depth of your thought here. It's great to have you, bring your thoughtfulness into this and the sort of the breadth of perspective you had. So no, I appreciate the conversation.
Great. Well, I think we can wrap up, and I really appreciate your time, Chris, and have a great day.
Likewise. Thanks so much.
Another great episode in the books. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to get notified when future episodes drop, be sure to subscribe to Paris Talks Marketing on your favorite podcast player. And to learn more about SaaS growth marketing, visit hop.online. That's hop, H-O-P.online. Have a great day.